Hello and welcome to the Monday edition of the CryptoAM daily catch-up over coffee, where we talk about COVID-19, impact on people, on businesses, on economies and government responses. Today, it's Monday, the 18th of May, 2020. So we're going to see who connects in. It's an open forum, so some days we get hardly anybody on, and it's just a one-to-one podcast type thing. Other days we get guests coming in from Bahrain, from Singapore, Hong Kong, New York, and many other places. So let's see who joins us today. Hey, Fernando, good afternoon to you. How's life?
Well, usual stuff. Actually, I took a bit of a relaxing weekend, to be honest.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
good.
just
Well,
reading stuff.
yeah, the weather's been good, hasn't it? It's been nice to go out and get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, and enjoy the world.
Indeed. I have breakfast every day outside now.
Yeah.
So, how are you? How was your
Yeah,
weekend?
okay. Went out for a cycle ride, get some exercise, and then had my grapefruit and orange segment, as you say, sitting outside in the garden today, enjoying it. So, if you're going to get locked down and you have a garden, it's not too bad a time, really. I feel really sorry for people who live in flats and in internal places. It cannot be easy for them.
Indeed, I agree.
Yeah. Well,
So,
you hearing any news from anywhere else? Anything exciting?
no, really, I just people are astonished when I speak with other people in other areas of the world that UK government is really pursuing the herd immunity. And they're just astonished. They think that do they really believe in that shit? That's what
But
most people tell me.
I thought the government came out with a statement a while ago that herd immunity was not the objective, but it was an end outcome of their actions. So they were effectively saying, well, we realise that herd immunity is not something that you say you're aiming for. It is something you will end up with if you do everything else correctly. Because otherwise,
Yeah, yeah.
the way it's been described, I keep saying at the moment, people are describing herd immunity, but actually it's not. It's thinning of the herd, which is a little bit different.
Yeah. They can say whatever they want. A politician
Yeah,
to do it by by having different actions, It's as simple as that.
yeah.
But when they have something in their mind, yeah, the way forward is to achieve herd immunity. How you get there? First, they wanted to leave everything open.
Mm.
There was a cry out, you don't know what this virus is, blah, 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 NHS will be swamped. They took a step back. Yeah. But they didn't change what they thought, man. It's so obvious.
That's the thing that bothers me at the moment about this idea of schools going back. That I've asked the question of a couple of people of why did they originally close the schools? What was the purpose behind that? Because if I remember correctly, it was to stop the spread of infections. It wasn't to protect children. It was to protect other people from getting the infections. And so you have to kind of ask the question, well, is that still a valid reason for them to have closed the schools? And it clearly was. They were trying to stop the spread. So are we now at the point where the situation is any different? Does everyone now have it? Which no, they clearly don't. Is everyone now immune from it? No, they're not. So the idea of maintaining separation and keeping schools closed is still valid. So why change? What new data has come in? And this is where whenever I see comments of, oh, well, we're using the science to make this decision or whatever, just tell us what the science is, tell us what the data is.
Yeah. They just don't know. And I'm more and more convinced it's business as usual for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew at some point they would need to open the curve. If you lock people down, the curve will start to ease down a bit, and they'll just open and get everyone infected again,
Hmm.
and then they'll bring us back in, because it'll be, hey, what's going on? You crazy?
Yep.
They'll close us all.
Well, I think there may well be.
By that time, another 30, 40,000 people dead. You have 30% of people infected. Do it again, and I have no doubt that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there is a real concern that if they open things up, they'll start introducing more infections, and then they'll have to close down again. Hey, Corby,
Hey,
how are
I
you
thought
today?
I'd join you for the last 10 minutes of the half an hour.
Excellent, thank you. You've been busy cooking more curries?
I've been doing business this week. Curries was last week.
Hmm?
Take it in turns.
Yeah.
Yes, I have actually. I've done a few more to post on YouTube. That's my hobby, but trying to keep up with the day job.
Yeah. Well, you still need to do a vegan curry for me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. I do.
That'd be good. So, how are you finding business at the moment?
Quite slow, to be honest. I think there's a lot of decisions that are being kicked into the long grass. Quite a lot of uncertainty. I've just been on a production meeting earlier, actually, with some friends of mine in the events industry who are all looking at the virtual offering and sort of going down that route at the moment.
Yep, and I'm seeing that a lot. A lot of the groups I'm involved in, which were like speaking groups, are now switching to being virtual speaking groups. So they're looking
That's
about
right.
what you do for remote delivery and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because it's a sector that could actually adapt once they've worked out what the pricing and business model is.
Yes.
And I think that's where people are kind of figuring out, well, can we still charge for this kind of thing? How do you get sponsorship? All that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I think it'll get there.
I think what's happened is there's just been, obviously because of the events and the mass gatherings and obviously the fact that we can't meet up, I think a lot's been put now to sort of how else do you generate lead gen through marketing, through clever marketing, through using social media more, through posting more webcasts, podcasts. But, you can't cover a whole, unless you actually take it to a virtual venue and do it that way online. They're just trying to keep the noise, the share of voice up in the market by... sorry, the window's reflected on my glasses, by doing a few bits here and there. So the whole strategy is having to change.
Yeah. Is anyone in the events industry beginning to start thinking about opening up for physical events again?
I've heard through some people that I know that they've got dates for September published, but I think it's like we just keep moving the goalpost, don't we, as we go along?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where we are after this little easing of lockdown. Now, we don't know what's going to come out of this. I I don't know how it is where you guys are, but certainly in my neck of the woods yesterday, I'm noticing a lot more traffic, a lot more movement of people. People are doing their picnics, and not everyone's observing social distancing. So we'll have to see where we are in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, this was something that Fernando and I were talking about before, about how it's likely that we're going to see the easing of restrictions is going to result in more infections, which is going to result in more hospitalizations.
Yes.
And I just hope that they'll quickly respond and react to that if they can, to kind of control it and triage it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how I think we're quite calm now in London because we've been through the first storm. But I was chatting to friends over the weekend based in the southwest, and they're quite scared, the Cornish community, because they feel that that's yet to hit them. What with half term coming up, and better weather, that the beaches are going to get busier. So there's a lot of concern for the tourist locations.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well, because I posted something on the group earlier on about how there's been an outbreak in a part of China. I think it's Jilan or somewhere where there's 100 and odd cases, and so they've gone into severe lockdown straight away. And it's going to be interesting if we suddenly get an upsurge in England, how quickly can the government instigate another, we're all locked down again, stop going to work and that? Because businesses are not going to be able to handle this idea of, well, 1 minute people can work from home, then they're coming to the office, now they're going back.
Yeah.
It's the classic thing. We need certainty.
Yeah, I mean, it's all very confusing, isn't it? Even with schools, I don't know if you know, I posted a few things on the. Sorry, hello, Fernando. I just zoomed in and
Hi.
dominated the. You know,
Oh, that's fine.
I posted something on the CryptoAM website last night, just saying, you know, even getting back the schools, you know, why are we focusing on those age groups? So I'd like to know the methodology. You know, what's the reasoning behind these decisions, and that's what's not being shared. Or I haven't heard it, so I'll have to listen out for Gavin Williamson when he next speaks in the House of Commons to see what his rationale is.
Well, I think that's very much in line with what Fernando and I have been chatting about, either online or directly at times. That it's all well and good saying, oh, well, this is science-led, or we're coming to this decision, or whatever. It'd be nice to know why they're making certain decisions.
Exactly.
What's the methodology they're using to come up with those decisions, and where is the data to support those decisions? Because right now, the primary thing that seems to be driving everything, and this is where, when you take a step back, it's fascinating, is they've now created this concept called R. And R is this all-seeing, all-dancing, amazing thing. So they've given it, it's almost its own identity in a way. It's quite fascinating. But when you actually look at how it's all calculated, you know, ultimately it's a whole bunch of people running their own models to come up with a number within certain constraints. So if they change the inputs, or if they change the calculations, it'll come out with whatever number they want. It's not actually taking the data from actual factual stuff. It's taking it from subjective, anecdotal data in many ways. So I still think it's just that someone in government has got an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, like I maintain my spreadsheet. I think they're maintaining their spreadsheets until it comes up with a number that suits whatever their agenda is right now. Because I agree, it was interesting on one of the groups I'm based on locally, where they're talking about schools returning, because we've got children of those affected ages now. Is that the headmasters are saying, oh yes, we can go back to school. The teachers are saying, oh well, we don't want to go back to school and everything. Everyone is taking a, I guess necessarily blinkered perspective. They're only looking at it from their perspective. They're not looking at it holistically. So the headmasters might be absolutely right that it's a complete nightmare what's going on at the moment. I feel very sorry for the teachers who are going to be stressed and hard working there. So that they need to change that, and they need to put in place something different. But as I was saying to Fernando before, if the reason for closing the schools was to reduce the risk of infection to others,
the rate of infection, exactly.
Then has that changed? Is that now an invalid thing? Has that been proved to be incorrect, or it doesn't work, or is now everyone so infected it doesn't make any difference? From what I can tell, nothing has changed. So what is it that is now driving that strategic change? And I think someone's altered the calculation in cell C3.
Yes, and it's come up with a. But you know, this is what they were saying. I don't know if you watched Question Time last week, but you know, they had the Davy. I forget her surname, Davy. She's quite senior in the ministerial team, Department of Health, I believe, in Scotland. And again, she was saying, yes, you've got the science, but then you've got to make political judgments with that information. You know. You can have all the analysis in the world, but if you're in the driving seat, if you're the CEO of the company, you've got to make those judgments. And you know, I don't know if you read, but I did a little bit of early years teaching when I first became a mum. My son's 13 now, and I did some Montessori teaching for a couple of years, and really the years they're talking about, they're better spent at home, you know, in a nice environment. I hear what they're saying, definitely for vulnerable children, but then there are centres that are open now for key worker children. Could they not be incorporated there? You know, it's not rocket science. I think, you know, we're all saying pretty much the same. We just don't understand why they're pushing ahead with that strategy.
I understand very well. I really understand their strategy.
You think they're trying to kill us off?
No, it hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed. Where are you, Fernando? Are you in the UK or?
Herd immunity, and that was the strategy. And
Yeah.
UK, it was
Yeah.
always right
That's me.
from the beginning, herd
Yeah.
immunity.
Yeah.
Everything else they've done so far, it's just
Yeah.
to appease the masses. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Yes,
Nothing
absolutely.
else.
But
So,
you can't yet aim for herd immunity when you don't know if this is something you can become immune from. This,
oh
this
yeah,
is the
I don't
this is
disagree
the,
with you.
yeah, this is the bit that people keep forgetting, that whilst this is a virus that naturally behaves similarly to other viruses, and so you can infer some things from it, there is no certainty yet that it will behave exactly like all other viruses, and that you can develop a vaccine and that you can develop immunity. I think it's like HIV. HIV
Yeah.
has been around for, was it 15 years now?
Yeah.
And they don't have a vaccine.
15.
I think
HIV since the
30.
80s, mate.
really
30.
Since
okay.
the
Yeah.
80s.
Wow.
Yeah. At least.
And there's no vaccine to resolve it yet. There are
Yeah.
treatment strategies, there are mitigation strategies, but they've had that long to cure something that was growing.
And also what's happening, and I posted again, the really interesting report that I read in The Guardian about Professor Paul Garner, Garner, and he's also been interviewed on Radio 5 Live. I mean, he's had 6 weeks of absolute horrendous illness from what he's been describing. So, I mean, if the poor chap, and it hasn't been confirmed, which is a shame, whether he's had COVID or not, but I mean, if he has had COVID, his immune system's completely, destroyed. So, for him to have immunity now, there's just so many side effects that could, ill health, ME symptoms, they were saying, he's been very honest about what he's been experiencing. And I think we need to hear more of this news about people actually sharing their experiences, because it's all like a lot of stuff's going on behind closed doors. It's not very open.
Mm. I wonder if in some ways it actually isn't. I think it's one of these classic ones that we all have this impression as to how governments and organisations run, and we assume that government's got teams of people, highly qualified, highly professional, working through this and weighing up assessments and doing
they probably
judgment
haven't.
calls.
Yeah.
And it's possible that they actually don't have to the level that we give them credit for.
No, I think you're right. I think even in organisations, you could be working for a large company, thinking, and when you've been in several meetings, right arm's not talking to the left, different departments not got hold of that information. You always need this connection, and it takes a really strong leader to put all those pieces on the chessboard.
Yep. I think I loved it the other day. There was one of my former work associates, she stuck something on Facebook that said, anyone who thinks this is all a big conspiracy being run by a deep state or something has never been a project manager, because they'll know if you've ever been a project manager, getting just 12 people to agree to something and to keep it quiet and do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I've been speaking to someone in one of the local councils, and he's saying it's a complete nightmare. They're merging councils at the moment, trying to link together the three systems and get them to talk to each other. He said it's amazing that anything actually works, but when it does work, you assume that was through good design, when in reality it's probably just coincidence in some ways. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think they need a lot more. I mean, this has always been the thing, hasn't it, with the public sector? You need industry folk in there who have worked on the commercial side, who have got different habits, different work habits, and I think that would be a good culture to foster.
I think you're right. That's why a while ago, when Matt Hancock first came on the scene, and he was the Minister for Digital, and he's a former fintech guy, so he gets technology. He's clearly, he understands
Put him in health.
Yeah, they put him in health, which was kind of a real shame. And then you thought, well, that maybe he'll be able to transform it, because health and data is absolutely critical. And it's been a shame that, again, he's someone that once he's put into a political space doesn't quite perform in the way that you expect politicians to.
Right.
So maybe that's, I think the press have had the knives out for him because he's been a little bit too honest at times. And I remember early on, he was one of the few people who was saying, well, our worst case scenario assessment is that 80% of the population could be infected by this, which was a number at the time nobody wanted to hear. And I thought it showed some honesty and bravery that he acknowledged that. Since then, I think he's either tied the party line or he's been briefed by people, but he's sadly been subsumed and he's become just another politician, which is a shame. Yeah. Fernando, what are your thoughts today then?
Well, I think there is honestly no point in discussing anymore, because I truly believe that their strategy is just do whatever to appease the masses and come up with some stuff that people are, hey, okay, they're dealing with it. In the end, everything that they are doing, that it's not even a strategic, it's more tactical. The strategy was defined a while back already. Herd immunity, we need to achieve that somehow. The only thing that is confusing for me is if they want that, why are they pushing so much for the vaccine?
Yeah.
And that really puzzles me, because they know that it takes 18 months at least. I mean, I was speaking with someone because I don't live very far from GSK, by the way, okay? And I know someone, he's a director there, and he told me, Fernando, it takes 6 months at least. Once you have something, it takes 6 months to try on mice, and to get some real good indicative results. And they want after 6 months to inject this in people. That for me is like, what? I don't get that. I don't get at all.
And that ties in exactly with, I think, the conversation we had on the forum earlier on today, I think it was, or yesterday, where I can completely believe that they can research and find new candidate vaccines much faster than they've ever done before. You look at what they've done with CRISPR and the ability to slice up DNA and insert things, absolutely ground changing. And so the research into and the discovery of a new vaccine can absolutely be accelerated, made much faster. The testing of it, however, cannot. That's the bit that still takes time, and that's where you still need to test to make sure, does this have adverse reactions? Does it have contraindications? Does it offer sufficient efficacy against not taking it? And this is stuff that, how do you work out if a vaccine, which is effectively a dead version of a virus, if that doesn't then adversely affect your immune system?
Absolutely.
I was
going to need 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, clinical trials take years.
Yep.
I was going to say that, and Corby, the thing is, I was involved in a project, a blockchain project, and the guys dropped it, but they might come back on, which is exactly for that, clinical trials, but with a blockchain infrastructure. Yeah.
Wow,
and so I understood really, really well what clinical trials are, and it's absolutely what you just said, Gary, which is, if you're going to look how clinical trials are defined in this country, it's one of the safest that exists in the world.
Yep.
And they threw away all of that. Every single pharmaceutical company, everyone has to go through those because exactly of the side effects. It needs time. It needs a lot of validation by independent bodies, not just the pharmaceutical company. I mean, it needs peer review, so much stuff, and that takes years to do.
Yeah,
and that's scary, And
I agree, because that's the bit that I don't think you can accelerate. No. It's a little bit like, I remember having a conversation with a project manager once, and he was arguing about how you could compress the time of a particular project. And I turned around and said, well, look, at the end of the day, it takes 9 months to have a baby. And no matter how many men you put on the job, it's going to take 9 months. And he came back with a really smart answer. He said, yes, but you could have a premature delivery. And so you could have an early type thing. And I said, yeah, and look at the state of the poor baby as a
and
result.
The consequences, absolutely.
Exactly right. So it is all about weighing up the risks and striking up the is it worth accelerating
And
that?
also, I mean, there's been a lot of news in the States, hasn't there? About current drugs are out there that could be used or combined. And we're not actually hearing about that sort of innovation where you're looking at your initial library of things. You've got AI modeling, you know, surely some way through somehow there's something can be.
I think actually in the States that is what they're doing, because
Yeah.
that is actually a valid way of shortening the testing process. So if you've
Yes.
got something, I think there was a malarial type thing.
I can't say it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Given credit, I think Trump actually could.
Yes, he could actually, bless him.
Yeah, but that's something that
Hydroxychloroquine, yeah.
yeah, if a side effect of that is that it can treat this virus,
Yes.
and it is already approved for use in human beings, then
Yes.
that is actually a valid way of accelerating type things. But even with that, you still need to do the tests of, well, does it have a weird contraindication when someone who has COVID takes it in some way? And they just don't know it yet. So
yeah,
it's
no.
interesting. But I think it's one of those things that we're all aware that there's a desire to come to a quick answer, but at times it's better to tread a little bit more cautiously on these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, talking of time, we are about up. So thank you both for joining us today.
Great, lovely.
I've got some client commitments this week, so I'll try and run these during the week anyway. We'll see how we go on with that. But thank you very much, both of you, for coming along today, joining in.
Thank you, Gary. Nice to meet you, Fernando.
Yeah. As always, folks, now wash your hands.
Yes, absolutely.
Bye
for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.